We're now going to talk about key action operators in the RxJava single class. These action operators don't modify a single, but only use it for side effects. We'll be focusing here on the doOnSuccess action operator. This operator adds a behavior that's triggered when the single completes successfully. The behavior itself is passed as a consumer parameter that's called upon successful completion of the single. In this particular case, the consumer is a functional interface that emulates the functional interface that's part of Java 8. Remember that RxJava was developed with Java 6 in mind, not Java 8, so they have to emulate some of the functional interfaces you would find natively out of the box with Project Reactor. You can think about the parameter that's passed to doOnSuccess as being a callback. So it's basically used to invoke an operation with a side effect or a behavior with a side effect without having any modification changes. It returns a single that's not modified at all. The type's not modified, the value of the elements aren't changed, it just has the side effect. Because of this, it's typically used for debugging or logging in a chain of operators that are called on a single. Here's an example that we'll talk about later when we get into the case study for this lesson. We're going to use doOnSuccess in order to log the big fraction value, assuming that from callable succeeds. If an exception is thrown or something goes wrong, in that case, doOnSuccess will not be called. It turns out that Project Reactor's mono class has a doOnSuccess operator that works exactly the same as the one in the single class. So if you understand Project Reactor, you would have a very good idea of how to use the same operator in RxJava's single. In this case, this is basically the same code. We just replaced mono, but we used mono in place of single from the previous example. Both of these operations in Project Reactor and RxJava are actually quite similar to Java completable futures then except method. As you can see in this particular example, we're going to use supply async to go ahead and do a reduction of an unreduced big fraction in a background thread. We then call then apply to pass in the method reference to convert the reduced big fraction into a mixed string. And then finally, we call the then except operator in order to be able to print the results out. Then except doesn't do anything, doesn't make any changes. It just calls the method reference passed as a parameter, which has a side effect, which prints the results out. So that wraps up our coverage of an action operator in the single class.